how long? An hour and 45 minutes. Yeah. And in storytelling, what do you think I'm going to do?
Stories.
Tell you a story. Exactly, I'm going to tell you a story. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out where some of you are looking at the stuff over there, which is the exciting, I would say, technology stuff, the immersion stuff that we're going to immerse you in later. But before we do that, I need to tell you, probably for the next 30 minutes, the story that we've been through to actually get to this stage of storytelling. So, obviously, if I'm doing storytelling, this is what we want to show you here. This is one of the methods that we use to actually develop the story that we're going to talk about today, which is our storyboard, which is one of those methodologies where we went into a little bit the why, the what and the how, and the where and the when from that side, and then we started to map what we wanted to do. Okay? Now, a couple of things I just want to put into scope, because we got it here in the red, what we will and will not do. This is now not a deep dive debate of do we like this template, do we like that template, because you know what, you're not going to see any templates. If you want to do that, you can do that afterwards. What we're going to discuss is we're going to take you through the process that we went through to get to this stage, so we can basically refresh our memories, and some people are coming in new. And then we're going to talk about what Rachel, myself, and Leslie did, where you tasked us to put together a storytelling solution. We'll present it to you in terms of the logic, the methodology. We'll ask you for some input in certain areas, and we'll have a little bit of Q&A, not too deep dive, and then we'll go and have some fun. Okay with that?
Okay.
Very good. Okay. So, if we start from here, it's back to, and I remember this morning I even said, so where's the emotional? Now I went to the rational, right? Where's the business case? Okay, but
we are who we are.
Yeah, and I knew he wasn't here this afternoon, so I don't give a shit. Okay, so basically why are we here? You know, for those of you, because some of you were actually part of the initial discussions, and some of you are coming in new. But basically, if we look at the business case, because everybody, you know, it's always like the big buzzword now is storytelling. We've got to tell effective stories. How do we tell stories? We had it in the car yesterday driving to dinner. I heard that. If we look at it here in terms of there was a need, people were talking about it in all different regions. Can we have a learning solution for it? Here in terms of overarching findings, without going into details, basically there is not a full offer out there available. And when we talk about full offer, we are not talking about just effective presentation skills, telling a good story. We're talking about end-to-end content, development, understanding the audience, developing the plan, executing. What does that sound like a little bit? What we talked about this morning? That sounds like account development. So it's the same type of principle, okay? Here we talk about why we have to do it in the world we live in at the moment, and we talk about now we're going from transactional selling to account development, product, service, software, differentiation, digitalization, speed and complexity. Decisions need to be made faster, which means then the output is we've got to be clearer with limited information at getting the point across, because storytelling is not about, well, it is about sitting with your kid on the bed and telling a nice story. It's a business case.
When you say nothing is available out there, did you look at the, I don't say that this is a great solution, but did you look into the solution finance has and E3 has?
Yes, we looked into that. It's, yeah, okay, we looked into that. To answer that one quickly, the finance solution is an excellent one, but it's positioned for finance people to create learning content. Ours is more for creating the business story. So it's slightly different. So we took learnings from that. Let me go through it today, you'll see where basically we took it, okay? And then the last thing from us in terms of L&D, it builds our brand. Another excellent learning solution, that's what we want to put out there for all our customers in the Hilti world that they can work on. Okay, so, no PowerPoint, just lots of pictures and buttons. DJ, you're in charge. Okay, and the door. Right, so, hands up who was with us on the 16th of May 2019 in Washington, D.C. Okay. So who remembers what we did there in terms of storytelling? Can someone refresh the memory? Remember what we did?
Well, in the small group?
Yeah, so we divided into two groups, remember? One group did storytelling, what did the other group do? Lumina. Exactly, so basically we divided. And then in our team there was Andrea, there was Rachel, there was myself. Leslie got seconded into Lumina. We also had Jose, and also I think Christian, you were with us as well, I remember. So basically with this team we started to develop an initial hypothesis in terms of a gated approach that we wanted, gate 1, gate 2, gate 3, gate 4. with a lot of inputs. Then we had the rest of the team come back and join us. They gave us further inputs. It was, I would say, I use the word intensive discussion. And then what we did the next day is we prepared flip charts and charts on the different areas in terms of the gates that we talked about, which was basically scoping, data to information, creating the story, telling the story. Those were the initial gates we looked at. We got additional inputs then from the team, and with that, we decided, okay, now we needed to come back in the September summit where we are today with a solution for you, okay? So from there, we scaled the team down. We basically, Rachel and I took the lead, and that was agreed with the team, that we would basically be the trusted to come with an answer to all the questions. We did a little bit of tennis, we had some drafts. I think, Rachel, we ended up with about 4 drafts there. And basically then, we got together last week in Sharm. We locked ourselves in the creative room for 4 days. We had the first 2 days on our own, and then on the 3rd day somebody joined us. The drawing guy, right? So he came in and did all the, apart from the drawing, also gave us excellent inputs and content. And what we basically came up with now is the solution that we want to show you, where we don't have a gated approach, the boring gate 1, gate 2, gate 3, gate 4. We've compressed it into 3 sections, which we call prologue, dialogue, epilogue, which makes it a little bit more interesting for people when you say that. You know, it's like a book, right? Like telling a story. Okay. So, with that, this is the scaffold that we built here. So prologue, like you do in any book. So what happens in a prologue, right? What's the prologue's like? It's not quite introduction. It's setting the scene.
Create the emotion, create the excitement about the story.
Exactly. That's right. Okay. Dialogue is actually telling the story, and epilogue then is afterwards, what happened after, you know, because they normally write that in at the end of the book, right? So what happened after the story when I told it. Where we want to position it, our target audience, where we said very clearly, is with those team members. We want to link it to development, where it's in the development discussion and it's in their IDPs. And we're very clear that we want to go away from this. I have a marketing department of 30 people, they all need to come and do storytelling. That's not the point. It is very much needs-based in terms of their development, because then obviously you can track, follow up, did something change, and so on from there, okay? It's clearly then positioned, because effective storytelling, there are very different methods and mechanisms to do that. You can do it by PowerPoint, you can do it by webinars, you can do it audio. It's basically, we position it as a live, that one's a little more, we position it as a live delivery. So it's a live experience, one level up. So it would be like an ASM who's presenting to the head of sales, or it would be someone presenting to the management team. So basically we have a frame around it. So when people ask you, well, what is it for? It's not about, you know, telling a peer a story. It's about a one level up delivery, and it is business case relevant. Okay? So, if we now go into step 1, where we said, and this is all now designed, and we have it in Fuse. And you can look through it later, so that's one of the, I won't say tasks, that's one of the things you can do and give us feedback on, but we will not go into the details of it today. We decided step 1, the prologue, so basically you're enrolled, we would start with a welcome call, all right, so we would get everyone on a Skype call, welcome them, explain to them what are the expectations, address any concerns from there. It is learner-led prologue, a digital experience, so like the gate 1, if you want, but we call it the prologue, where there would be a mix of mandatory and on-demand content available. So the point is also radically focus on the essentials. Don't overload them with 65 assets in Fuse. Keep it very, very narrow and keep them focused. But there is a small amount of mandatory content. You can go in and look at that. And basically, along the journey, there's 2 very important points. The first one we call first conversation. So that's a little bit like, you mentioned it today to me on the site, empathy map. We're trying to understand who's your stakeholder, who's the main stakeholder, so who else, what, where, when, why, opening questions so you can get that research frame in terms of what you're looking at, who's your audience. Even simple things we were talking about which we normally don't do. If you're going to present to someone, why would you not have a discussion with them first on what are their expectations, for example, which sometimes we fail to do. So very simple hints and tips. On-demand content they can go through, assignments, and then a second conversation, which is basically data. Yeah. So what data do you have? What data do you need to to support your story. You prepare all of that, you get that certified, and then you come to dialogue, which is a 2-day classroom session. These are cool drawings. It's really cool. Well, you know the book you got given? A lot of it's in there, so that's why
That book is for that.
That book is for that. That's cool stuff. Okay, so you come to...
So how to transform learning in performance immediately? So yesterday read the book, now
Exactly, Leslie.
learning agility in the mountain. Wow.
So dialogue session is 2 days. It is classroom, so you're in front of the class, and basically there are 3 very important learning principles we apply. Experience exchange between each other, guided learning, and also bite-sized. So basically you can reach the top of the mountain from there. So you come in on day 1, and what we want to start with is a positive experience. And I think it was funny, I was listening to the Evolution project this morning, where you come in and basically, this is not something new. People have told stories in Hilti, in personal life, for years. So we're not teaching something new, but we want to hear what stories have you told, what has been successful about it. Have that experience exchange with your peers, and let's see if we can get some nuggets, some golden nuggets coming out that we can use. From there, we want to put them straight into action mode, elevator pitch. So in other words, you come in now with your first conversation, with your second conversation, so you know your stakeholders, you know what you're trying to achieve, you have your data, and then basically get into action mode and try. And this principle of don't be stressed, fail faster, learn, move, right? Get feedback from your peers. So that's a very intensive session to start with. And then from there, we start then giving them some guided content in terms of different ways of developing a story. You see the 6-box storyboard is what we use. You can use it where I think, Rachel, you like to write the whole thing out in a document. Some people are very visual in terms of mapping. But basically you build your story from there. Then we would go into something where we need to find some real stories in Hilti that we can video, that we can tape, that they're already out there, and dissect them a little bit and say, what did you like about it, what was good? Because there are some great storytellers in Hilti. I mean, there are some amazing ones, and when you hear them, they resonate with you. So what do we get out of that? Then it's about build your story and deliver your story. And here we break them into 2 areas, because I listened to you, TJ, when we were talking yesterday. You were talking about there's some methodology with this 5 levels and stuff like that, right? With, in the car, you were saying you were giving some examples when we were driving to dinner. It was a methodology of how to tell a story in an effective way.
I don't think.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the
Was
other
I
two
sleeping?
No, it was definitely.
Talking in my sleep.
I've never-
You were driving.
But here we want to dive into here that I know, which is I know my story, yeah? I know my audience, and I know I will do a good job. Here is I will be professional, I will be effective, I will tell in a logical manner. So it's a little bit the knowledge base, but also we want to give them some hints and let them also experience to be able to use different methods to get the story across from that side. But that's not the whole thing. Then, from there, we will leave them for the first day. Day 2, they come back. We give them the first hour and a half to prep, get ready, and then they go into 2 experiences. One is a live delivery to the rest of the plenum, and then the other one is the virtual reality experience, which you will all have a chance to go through before 2:45. Okay, so that we're done by day 2, probably about 2 o'clock, and then we go into epilogue, which is basically what do we do now leaving the room? So where's the 70-20-10? Where's the experience that we go into? What happens next? So we want them in terms of ongoing learning. We can, and here it's a little bit, we want to give them options because everybody learns in a different way. Some will want to say form peer groups in their MO, some will want to Skype XX, some will say maybe, okay, we need learning and development with my team leader and me to help me. Some say I want to do it on my own. We're very open. You choose the way you want to do it. We give you the different options, ongoing coaching, peer groups, Skype XX, but we will also prepare, well actually we are preparing at the moment, digital assets to support them on that journey when they go out. And then all we ask them to do is obviously they have to go out and deliver their story because they have to come in with the story they want, is to upload their story into Yammer or Fuse, let us see it, 2-minute video, PowerPoint document, story, whatever, just tell us what happened, what was the epilogue, what went well, what could be improved, and then from there is the
The
certification.
main thing is that you have to see it through. If you start the journey, then you need to finish the journey. Yeah, it's not about coming in there and getting a certificate and walking out. You start it, you go through the process, the learning process. You build your experience. You create your own experience in terms of the feedback you get, the audience, what comes into it, and that's the idea. They say, okay, you've gone through it. Yeah, and the one thing that I think and was also shown many times is that it's not just about the learner coming into it. Yeah? It's a three-way process. That means you've got the learner in place, because it's definitely learner-centric. But the other part is there's a part that comes from us that we take them through the overall process. But when they come in, they also need to come in with a mentor. That means it doesn't have to be the team leader. It's somebody that they're going to deliver to. It's from finance, a subject matter expert. Somebody's going to guide them through that entire journey. That's the most important piece.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now, so that's basically the experience, and what we have is a couple of things here where we call it the addendum, the extra part at the end. So we're thinking of, and give us feedback on this, but this is not limited to this. This is areas we're debating, right? From prologue to dialogue, we said about 30 days. So you come in and you have 30 days to get all your information ready, and you come into the classroom experience, and then 90 days to get to epilogue. So 3 months after that, do the upload and so on. So it's basically in sum 120-day experience, about 4 months. We go through the whole thing. Okay. In terms of the name, we actually thought when we came with this. You know, we have lead now.
Yeah.
Now we want to do listen now, right? And there, listen now, and we don't want to call it effective storytelling. We want to call this learning solution compelling stories, because it is about being compelling. You know, effective storytelling is, for me, a bit wishy-washy. That's just what the team felt. And we think compelling stories, that's okay, what could that be? And that can form then, and that's just an example of a further curriculum of all the communication type learning solutions we have. If we have lead now as a leadership, if you like, block, then the other one we could have as an overarching block, which we think is nice, is listen now. So we need your feedback on that, whether you like that or you think it's completely crazy. In terms of the prologue topic, by the end of the month, nothing will be filled in here because you haven't had a chance. You have access, right? They have access, Rachel, to basically the learning plan infused that has been built. We ask you to go look at it, look at the templates that we've developed, look at the learning content, the assets, and give us feedback by the end of the month in case we need to adjust anything or there's something that you think could be better handled from there. Last but not least, and then we'll do a little bit of questions. We're going to go fast. So, in HAG, in A1, A2, and in Meta, we will actually run the first programs. In mine will be November, Rachel will be October, you will be somewhere in November, and we will learn as we go in. We won't be perfect from the beginning, and we'll adjust from there. And then basically we plan to be able to go live and launch 1st of January 2020, and then it's about discussing with you launch communication, what support would you need from that side.